Ooh, another white boy with a podcast. Pronouns, Jim Bro. Another white boy with a podcast. You want to see the video? It went viral.
Hi gains gurus and welcome to TMGP, the Muscle Growth Podcast, episode 23. I am your host, Roscoe, and today we are welcoming Daniel Louwrens onto the show. Daniel Louwrens is a towering figure in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. Standing at an impressive 6'4", this South African powerhouse has made a name for himself as a successful bodybuilder, personal trainer, and consultant. With a degree in chemistry from the University of Western Cape and multiple certifications in personal training and nutrition, Daniel brings a unique blend of scientific knowledge and practical experience to the table. He has been working in the fitness industry for over a decade, helping numerous clients achieve their physical and mental goals. Daniel's journey to becoming a bodybuilding champion is an inspiring one. After suffering from injuries that forced him to stop playing international rugby, he found himself in a deep depression and gained significant weight. However, he turned his life around by competing in a bodybuilding show just 10 months later, dropping from 315 pounds and 35% body fat to 240 pounds and 7% body fat. Today, Daniel competes in bodybuilding, weighing anywhere between 250 to 300 pounds depending on his goals. He is also a coach where he provides customized training, nutrition, and recovery plans. Daniel has also published many ebooks in the health and fitness space, including ones on nutrition and supplementation. With his wealth of experience, scientific background, and passion for fitness, Daniel is a valuable asset in the bodybuilding community. His unique perspective and evidence-based approach make him a sought-after expert in the field. In today's episode, we can look forward to insights from Daniel related to bodybuilding, prepping for a show, strength training, anabolism, PEDs including steroids, SARMs, peptides, and more, PEDs in professional sport, the prevalence of PEDs in general populations, benefits and advantages of PEDs, side effects of PEDs, male versus female characteristics, and more. Hey Gains Gurus, before we dive into today's episode, we have a special shout out to our sponsor, Heart and Mind SA. If you're looking for a delicious way to boost your workouts, their creatine gummies can be found on Takealot and are the perfect fit. They're not just effective, but are also a tasty treat you can look forward to every day. So maybe it's time to be like me and fuel your gains with Heart and Mind SA. If you're injured or in recovery, check out theinjuryconsultant.com and consider getting a free consultation to see whether I can help you heal, restore, and thrive. Lastly, don't forget to follow us on all major social media platforms, including Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and X. Find us at the Muscle Growth Podcast and myself at Reps with Roscoe. Welcome, Daniel, to the Muscle Growth Podcast, where we explore subjects related to muscle science and hypertrophy. I'm thrilled to have you join us for today's conversation. Can you briefly introduce yourself and your journey into the world of bodybuilding and being an anabolic steroid expert?
Cheers, man. So my journey started when I was around 16 years old. I transitioned to playing a lot of rugby, and I was very overweight, extremely overweight, and that's the spark started with just wanting to lose weight. So like every 16-year-old kid, you just start using USN stuff and hope for the best, and you just read whatever the hell is available in magazines back then, I guess. Yeah, you were looking at pictures of like, I don't know who was sponsored by USN back then. It was a British male physique guy and such. So that started back then. I started playing rugby then for Western Province and Namibia, kept losing weight and stuff. Always very interested in strength. Then I got my 8th concussion and I had to transition into strength sports completely. And then I transitioned into strongman specifically, never really powerlifting because I hate benching because I'm quite tall. And I did a few years of strongman. My diet was never really on point. couldn't really care much. And then that started getting into me emotionally, and I didn't like being fat. And so I decided to lose weight for a show. And as I was changing shorts at the show to get into a different pairs of shorts, because I did male physique, someone told me, like, your legs will still have a lot of size. Why didn't you try bodybuilding? I was like, sure, I'll give it a go. And obviously I studied chemical sciences. There's a lot of history with that. That plays into parts as well. Got my qualifications in personal training as well. Started coaching professionally, and that's what I do today.
Where did you study your BSc chemistry?
UWC.
Okay. How did you find it?
It was fun. I didn't study pure chemistry. I studied chemistry with a focus on geology. So it was very, very fun. We did around 2 years of organic chemistry. So it was extremely, extremely fun. But I also did biology in high school, kept studying as well, but I didn't study biology per se. It was fun. I'm kind of ashamed I stopped because as I stopped or finished my degrees, COVID hit. So I couldn't really progress. But maybe one day.
Okay. What, going back into biology or further in chemistry?
Probably chemistry. If I had to do bio, I probably have to start over again, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I'd probably go down the route of chemistry. Bio is interesting, but I don't love it.
So you are 6'3", as you mentioned. You're very, very tall, and 275. Is that currently 1 week out from the Shea Best Classic?
No. I was around, I would say 255, and then I went to the forest with my wife and her family to get just for a holiday, and I was in very, very good shape, and then I got really, really, really sick with food poisoning, like crawling on the floor bed, like in the shower, both ends bad, and I lost even more weight. And I've been really struggling to pick that weight up in a healthy bodybuilding-like manner, I guess. And so literally 2-3 weeks ago, I was like, the Shea Best is happening. I wasn't planning on competing again this year. I might as well try it. I might as well try in classic. My classic weight cap is 105 kgs. So I'm trying to get in 105, but it's a struggle. Like, I can't feel my feet anymore. They're frozen solid. I can't
just for lack of fat.
Yeah, it's just really cold. It could be neuropathy, but from what every time it gets hotter, it lessens. So I highly doubt it's neuropathy, which for those that don't know is the breakdown of neural tissue. So I doubt it's neuropathy, and I have no reason to believe it is neuropathy, but it's getting to me. It's really getting to me. Like, I have to remind myself, like, it's just 1 more week. It's just 1 more week.
Okay. So it's 1 more week. You got this 100%. Like, I know it's tough. It's 1 week out, you're depleted, all the rest of it. So thank you once again so much for coming onto the show. I appreciate it, even given the depletion. So what is your kind of protocol for the last week?
My protocol, to be honest with you, man, doesn't veer from what I've been doing. I've experimented with extreme dehydration and such, and what I listen to people like Jordan Peters, when I listen to people like the guy, Joe, my brain is so not functioning at the moment. The guy who owns John Jewett, brilliant coach and just person all around. If you look good doing what you're doing, why do you think you look better doing something you've not done this entire prep? And so people overcomplicate it because they want to sex it up and make it appealing and like super dehydrate and do all these funky stuff. And it might work for some people. It definitely does. It does. Absolutely. I just haven't found that for myself yet. I'm currently still experimenting, and where my current experimentation is preloading and then letting that saturate into a show rather than trying to super compensate into a show. So instead of depleting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, carbing up Thursday and Friday, what I would do is deplete slightly on Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday, and carb up Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday morning, and then look, assess, pose down, and kind of let everything mature and just top up as needed. So you kind of have that safety area to play with. I'm not going to mess with water. I'm not going to mess with salt. And that seems to have worked pretty well for me. While I was in the forest with my wife's family, that's kind of when I did that experiment, and I did exactly that because I got ill when I came back. And that's exactly what I did because there were no germ, and the food that I had available wasn't spectacular. So I was like, I'm going to do a dry run with carbing up. And that's exactly what I did. I ate quite a few carbs, and then like 1 or 2 days later, I looked my best. Nice and full, tighter, and I think that's what's going to work best for me.
Is the coaching you do like personal training?
The coaching that I'm doing is definitely more general population. It's not necessarily athletes. I do have clients that are in really great shape, like sub 12%, specifically men, but it's mostly generate the general public, because it's people that are cardiovascular, not fit, maybe dealing with some cardiovascular issues, just moms and pops try and lose weight, improve their lives. It's beautiful people, beautiful journeys that they live. So it's just about helping them get on track, get on the road, and then teaching them how to do these things by themselves at the big.
That's fantastic. And that's super worthwhile. So I'm glad that you're doing that. That sounds like an amazing profession. So well done to you.
It is fun. The contrast between that and like the bodybuilding mindset gets to me sometimes. It's like, wow, bodybuilding is like you ask for forgiveness later, and with general population is you ask for permission first, which is it teaches you how to be thankful for everything you have.
No, absolutely. I totally get the contrast there is very evident, I'm sure, especially from someone that does the bodybuilding side of things. So you know both worlds.
Yes.
So you've written an ebook on.
Yes, I have written ebooks. When I used to work for the companies overseas as a writer, I used to write a lot of ebooks, whether that be focusing on nutrition, whether that be focusing on training, whether that be focusing on pharmacokinetics. I've written quite a number of ebooks. I used to write 40,000 words a week. Like I had an app that checked your spelling, and each month it would give me a number. I'm like, how do you write that much? So it was a ton of reading, a ton of dissecting and things like that, even editing by other writers that you have to go through and highlight and say like, oh, this is not true. Like the idea that muscle grows through micro tears, like that's not true, because if it were, you could drop a bowling ball on your foot or on your leg and it would grow, but it doesn't.
Right. I get you. So what would be the mechanism for muscle growth then?
Mechanism for muscle growth is the accruement of new muscular neuroactive tissue. It's just putting the muscle under stress forces it to grow new tissue. But the idea that muscle has micro tears and we build new muscle across that, we have to test that. And they have tested that first in mice, where they drop like little balls on mice on their legs. Nothing happened. And then humans were like, well, we can do it to ourselves. And so they dropped bowling balls on the guys' legs, and muscle growth didn't happen, even though it was still tearage of the muscle.
Okay. I get you. Okay, interesting.
It is. It's a very big misconception, and it's very hard to understand. If you need more information on that, there's an Instagram, Paul Carter. His Instagram name is, I think, Run Lift Bang or Run Bang Lift. Really smart.
I think it's Lift Bang Run.
Yes. So really smart on the nose guy. And I learned from him, and he's like, that's not how muscle grows. And I was like, shit, really? And so I started reading what he has to say, and then I started reading the literature and I saw the image of the guy like lying underneath the ball, and he's like with his thumbs up, and his friend was dropping a ball on him from the study, and I was like, wow, that makes sense.
Okay, that's very interesting. But yeah, we'll maybe chat more about that later. What are the role of steroids in bodybuilding?
So when you look at AAS or anabolic androgenic steroids, they can play various roles depending on how you use them, depending on who uses them, and depending to what extent you use them. So obviously these things were developed to be used in a medical environment first and foremost. And then what they realized is, much like amino acids, when you overcompensate or supercompensate and use a bunch of it, you start having both beneficial and negative effects on the human body. For instance, we know that something like, I think it's oxandrolone, but something like the industry name for it, I guess, would be Anavar, can be used in burn patients. And what they realized is when you overuse it to a great extent, it can be used to drive anabolism. It can be used to drive a bit of fat loss through the thyroid action. The side effects are a bit less compared to something that's a bit more aggressive, like testosterone. So I guess the main reasons as to why people use it is for improved muscle protein synthesis, improved recovery, improved strength function, improved aggression. Some people even use it for improved hunger. It really all depends as to which ones and how much.
No, of course, and it's very different between individuals. But overall, would you agree that in bodybuilding, especially at an elite level, that it's pretty rampant, and to actually get to that level, it's borderline impossible to do it naturally, probably?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, yeah, I'm actually quite keen to, because I know we have similar views. Since I attended that amazing workshop you did on anabolics, it was very interesting, and I learned a ton. So we can maybe, if you don't mind, could we talk about the evolution of anabolic steroids in a similar fashion to the way you did it? I know we had a longer talk then, but just kind of summarize. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. So if you think about it, it's kind of like, I always refer to cars because everyone understands cars. You had the first car. It was great for certain reasons. It was bad because of certain reasons. Cool. How do we improve it? Well, we adjust this. We put bigger wheels on. We put bigger tires on. We put better suspension. We put a bigger engine.
Iterations.
Anabolics were in the same way. So we had the introduction of, let's say, pure testosterone. And they were like, okay.
Was that the first one?
I believe testosterone or Turinabol. I'm not too sure between the two. I have to go look. Again, my brain is a bit worse for wear at the moment, but testosterone is definitely the main one because it's the one we produce of the most. All anabolics can be found in nature, except for a select few.
Okay.
The chief amongst which would probably be trenbolone. That is completely made. But a lot of others will be found in small areas. Like you have nandrolone in your body.
Okay.
Just not a lot of it.
Just converted from testosterone. Okay. Right. Cool.
And so that testosterone, like, okay, great for recovery, drives male attributes, but it also drives female attributes through the female converting enzyme, or the estrogen converting enzyme called aromatase. How do we avoid that? Well, let's turn it to a DHT, which cannot aromatize. Fantastic. Let's make that. Ooh, okay. When we did that, we made an oral. When it's 17 alpha alkylated, it's quite heavy on the liver, for instance. How do we improve that? Well, we make it an injectable. Cool, we make it an injectable. Fantastic. Now we have something like Masteron. Fantastic. Still has quite a few negative side effects on your lipid levels. How do we improve that? Well, let's adjust it, and then introduce something like Primobolan. And so everything was looked at. What's wrong with it? Improve it. What's wrong with it? Improve it. And then I think they reached the peak when they started using things like, I believe on the injectable routes, it was primobolan. And the oral side, I think Anavar was the one with the most amount of benefits with the least amount of side effects. And then they started working away from anabolics because the side effects were just too much.
Is that where SARMs came in?
SARMs alongside the developments and integration of other factors such as peptides, etc.
Okay. Now we got to go down those rabbit holes just now. But first, before we do, can we just briefly talk about the anabolic family tree?
Sure. So there are 3 main family trees or types of anabolics, which share commonalities between one, bar 101, bar 102. So these 3s are DHT, dihydrogen testosterone, most of which have an inability to convert into estrogen and drive muscle protein synthesis really well. Doesn't increase your blood pressure tremendously, really tolerated quite well, not necessarily by women. Tolerated very well by men, not necessarily by women. It's a very male, quote unquote, like substance. Then you've got the testosterone tree, which are all testosterone or testosterone-like factors. Again, some have really a lot of similarities to testosterone, and some do not. For instance, I believe something like halotestin is within the testosterone tree. No, Halo is a THT. I'm not quite sure. But the one that is not like the others that we all refer to is going to be one of the nandrolones, and that's going to be anadrol. So that's going to be your anadrol, which is found within the DHT group, but acts like a nandrolone. Nandrolone is the last group, of which nandrolone, decaonate, trenbolone are the 2 main ones. There's also NPP, which is nandrolone phenylpropionate, kind of the same as nandrolone decaonate, just some slight differences between them. Again, they can have massive differences from one another, but as a group as a whole, each group have a lot of similarities with one another.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I just checked now. Halotestin is a testosterone derivative.
Okay, so halotestin is a testosterone derivative, but doesn't necessarily act like the other testosterones. It's a fairly, really aggressive testosterone base. And so that would be used in the application where kids or boys don't go through puberty, because it is so androgenic, which is the terminology used for male-like attributes, broader shoulders, hairy face, hairy neck, the development and the droppage of testes. So that would be used compared to DH or a normal testosterone, which would just be used to replicate normal testosterone.
That's interesting. I thought that we mentioned that halotest. Maybe I'm getting my things mixed up. What was the one that purely increased aggression that you said probably was?
Halotest.
Okay, so it's not actually great for muscle growth, more for getting angry. No, it is good for muscle growth as well.
No, it's not. It's terrible.
Oh, it's not.
Because it's so violently bad for you. You can't run it long enough to actually make a difference. It is very much clearly you're using a nuke to take out a house.
Okay. It's overkill is what you're saying.
It is overkill. There is a time and a place for it, but it's a get in, get out.
I get you. Is that place maybe in like a powerlifting competition where you want to be flipping, you're ready to drive, where you want to drive like a new PR or world record kind of attempt, or even not a world?
There are definitely some folks who use it in the bodybuilding community to get a very dry, androgenic look, but the thing remains the same. The less exposure you get, the better, just because it is so bad.
Okay, is that your lipids in particular?
Your lipids, your liver, kidneys.
So stay away from it for 99.9999999% of the population.
Pretty much. If you take Halo, then you must be pretty serious about what you're doing.
Or just really not care about your body.
I don't like to say that, but sure.
I get you. And what are the role of steroids in professional sport?
To give yourself an advantage compared to others. Simple as that. And with the study that was recently published, even if you use and you stop using, you permanently have an advantage. Sure. It changes your DNA forever. And there is substantial evidence that if you introduce anabolics, there's an increase in androgens in your body. And so your body makes more androgen receptors, which are parking spaces for androgens. So even if you remove the parking spaces, the chances of your natural androgens finding a parking space are a lot higher. And so you use it once, you're forever better than anyone who hasn't.
So the whole I'm not on cycle, therefore I'm natural is absolute crap.
You're still only slightly better, but you are better.
Yeah, you are better. It's for sure made a difference. It's without being too controversial, or I don't know, it might still be. It's almost like being born a male and then transitioning to female and then claiming not to have an advantage despite having gone through a male puberty.
There's a lot of people that argue if you do it soon enough, that won't be necessarily the case. If you really, really soon enough in your life, yes, perhaps, but there are certain other things that do make a difference, such as the Q angle for men and women are different, which is the angle of the hips. That makes a difference. So Q angle it's your bone tissue. You can't change that. Yeah. And there's forever the difference, and people with a larger Q angle are not able to squat with the same efficiency. So if you were born a female, or if you were born a male, and transitions to female, well, your Q angle is still a bit better off.
Yeah, as well as bone density as well. Men have higher bone density than women, among other factors, I guess. But the other point I wanted to try and talk about is the prevalence of not just steroids, but performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs, in athletes and sports people around the world and at the top level as well. Could you elaborate a little bit on that and your thoughts on that?
I think that more people use it in general, but a lot more athletes use than anyone else that ever believes. I follow a guy who works, I'm not going to name him, but I follow a guy who specifically works with athletes and then helps them not get caught. That's kind of his job, which is where most of the money in the industry goes, by the way. It doesn't go to
hectic.
So that's something I have zero idea about, just between us, I guess. But he posts which athletes he works, or what kind of athletes he works with, what they would use for us to, like, who interested to read. And he posted F1 drivers.
Oh, no ways, yeah.
Holy shit.
Is it hectic?
No, it wasn't. It was just like neurochemical and things like that. But it's still key.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, that makes so much sense.
No, absolutely.
And it's horse riders.
I was under no doubt.
So it's like everyone uses something. Even when we look at CrossFit athletes.
Yeah. Chess players.
Yes. CrossFit athletes. So bolus amounts of growth hormone, bolus amount of insulin being used, peptides, other peptides to help recover. It's just...
They look like it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
they look like it. There's no, even the women, they don't, like, they have these insane physiques and they're super impressive, but I just absolutely don't see it happening naturally under any circumstances. Like, maybe you have that one gene mutation that allows you to put on insane amounts of muscle, like Eddie Hall apparently has. But even with that, Eddie Hall's not deadlifting 500 with that mutation alone. Like, he's doing it with that mutation, which genetically allows him to accrue more muscle mass than someone without that genetic mutation. I believe it's termed the superhero gene. That might be incorrect. But that plus a large dose of anabolic steroids, probably peptides, growth hormone, growth hormone is a peptide, and other things as well, maybe insulin, and just all the anabolics combined, plus the insanely elite genetics, plus visualizing a car on his kids is how you deadlift half a ton.
That's true. I think it comes down to if you combine the genetic elites with the ability to use large amounts of PEDs without suffering from the side effects, very key components. You get world-class, world-changing athletes. You get your Eddie Hall. You get your Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah.
You get your Hafthor Bjornsson.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of those people. Like, I'm running out of names as I say that, because those were industry-changing individuals.
Absolutely. And the kind of prevalence of it in general population, like the average Joe, also way more than people would actually choose.
Yes, unfortunately so. And unfortunately, it's a thing where people think it's the answer to everything, because they see bodybuilders and physique athletes and models doing a few things in public, which is eating right, things like that. And they think like, that I do all those things, there must be one thing I'm not doing. It's like, no, that person has been doing the right thing every single day for years on end. Genetically, they're elites. They've got a mindset that you cannot even fathom. And then they sprinkle on the beautiful things. So I think people believe that's a magic secret. Does it help give an advantage? Absolutely. I'm not going to bullshit you. Yes, it gives you an advantage, hands down. But to say it gives you everything is also not true.
Absolutely. No, it's a give and take, like you mentioned. With regard to that advantage, that kind of takes us quite nicely into the next topic, which is the ethics of PEDs. Let's start with from a professional sports standpoint. I did a research essay in university on the ethics of doping, and ultimately my team concluded that it is ethical. And we had a whole bunch of reasons why, but the main one for me was that, like, for example, in the Tour de France, I believe that the statistic from a peer-reviewed study was that 19 of the 20 top finishers were either caught with doping or were on the suspected doping list. And that was like 19 out of 20. So, like, for them to strip Lance Armstrong of all of his medals when they're all doing it, it didn't really make sense to me, because without doing it, you're actually not giving yourself, when you do it, you're not giving yourself an advantage. You're leveling the playing field. What are your thoughts on that?
The curious person in me says, make it legal.
Yes. So sorry, Jesse, because the next point is to do with the enhanced games coming up in 2025. So carry on, but then we'll go back to the enhanced games and your thoughts on that.
My point is, make it legal, except for a few select sports, contact sports. Sports where you can influence the livelihood of someone physically.
Right.
Boxers, like judo players.
Yeah.
Judo, whatever. Those people,
martial arts,
that you can have life-altering effects on someone's life. And we just saw that in the game.
For sure.
With the controversy. I'm actually not sure what happened there. I don't want to talk about it because I haven't done the research.
Yeah.
But that's dangerous. That is incredibly dangerous. Driving against the guy who took some EPO, who cares? Like, what are you going to crash into one another? And the crash is going to be worse because he was on EPO and you weren't. But I do believe everyone uses it. Some people use it very smart. That individual I said that I follow that works with the clients, you will use specific testosterones that replicate animal testosterone, because all testosterone, injectable testosterone, is plant and soy based. So that's the way that they test it. Like, oh, this testosterone is slightly different to mammalian testosterone. It's not coming from him. So if everyone uses it, I agree to an extent. Like, there should be something done about it. The argument for the enhanced gains is certainly an interesting prospect. I mean, people want to see that. You've all seen the Twitter posts like, screw it. Like, just give people the gear. Like, how eye can you jump?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm curious about that too. I just wouldn't, ethically, I wouldn't be okay with watching contact sports, because I've played rugby professionally and I've played against guys back then who were using the stuff, and they have an aura about them, like, oh, he's using something, and you kind of get scared because this person is on something that you can't even pronounce. Like, it doesn't feel fair.
I get you. But the thing is, so like, I totally agree with you, and I think that it should be done in a controlled manner, and that certain things should absolutely be not allowed. But in terms of the contact sports, that's one, I'm not saying it's more prevalent, but it is definitely still being used, and like, the guys aren't going to stop. So I think it's more giving them the same access. And I know it's hectic, and your life is literally on the line, especially in boxing, rugby. But I know in rugby as well, you obviously played professional, so you have that, or semi-professional, so you have that insight. But I also know people that did the same as you, played for, I'm not going to mention teams, but of their team, I'm just trying to quickly work out the math, roughly 80% of their team, and this is a very well-known team, were on PEDs at the time of testing. And they know how to get around the testing. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, there's a formula. They know how to do it. They've done it so many times. Lance Armstrong, for example, passed 500 drug tests. He was actually never caught. He never failed a drug test. The only reason it all came out was because there was a whistleblower, etc., etc. So, like, the drug tests don't work. WADA is literally a money-making racket. They're not there to try and promote fair sport. That's not what they're there for. I believe that they are there to make money, and it's not like, taking steroids isn't career ending. It's the repercussions from being caught. It's a lot of professionals have managed to get away with it. I know of a lot of professionals, even in sports that you really wouldn't think about, running away from drug tests and things when they knew that they were not ready to be doing those tests.
I think my dream would be the money that you save from not testing sprinters could be used for boxers, and hopefully develop kind of a new system that's a bit more prevalent, a bit more better. And hopefully you would actually be able to have better yielding results. But that's wishful thinking. So,
it can be optimistic.
I know. I think I've heard, it wasn't me who thought about this. It was actually Mike Tyson. And who said, like, let them use, just not boxers, just not contact sports. And I was like,
I saw that interview, actually.
So that's where we got there.
But I get you. I don't think Mike Tyson's natural. I don't think he was either, necessarily.
To be honest with you, I didn't watch a lot of boxing, so I can't really have an opinion. But I trust you. So maybe he wasn't, maybe he was, but I don't know enough to have an opinion.
I get you. I saw that interview. I enjoyed that interview, but it's the same thing that we're going back to, like in MMA as well. Your life is absolutely on the line, but like, you get these guys, they go away for an off season, they come back with 20 pounds of lean muscle and gyno. I'm not going to mention theirs, but people can work it out. And it's just, that's not even with the best genetics. They've been training for a long time. It's not like they suddenly just started eating like chicken broccoli rice, as they claim, and then it's like, I got 20 pounds in like 3 months.
I think that's
just not how it works.
When we look at the sprinters, the sprinting record like 30 years ago was above 10. Today it's below, like 9, 8. did food and training methods really get that much better? We could argue that food quality got worse. Sports supplementation quality got better, but food quality probably got worse because there's less nutrients in the ground. Like, we could out phosphorus and stuff like that. But training methods absolutely did improve. Recovery methods absolutely did improve. But we wouldn't see week or year-on-year records keep getting beaten unless something was up. Like,
No, there's stuff's up.
Like,
it is up.
Something is up. Something somewhere doesn't add up. Like, even when you look at rugby players, they just keep getting bigger. Like, centers are like 110, 115 kgs now. If I was when I was playing professionally and I got up to against 115 kg flank, I was like, shit, he's a big boy. If I ran up against 115 kg center, I'd be crapping 7 kind of different nations of army in my pants. So it's, I want to believe that people have more and more ethics, but at the same time, I understand you're an athlete. Your livelihood depends on it.
Literally, it is as simple as that. Like, if you want to be the best in the world, you've got to do what the best in the world do. And it's the same basketball. I've went down a rabbit hole of watching a bunch of Netflix documentaries about different sports, and like a key theme was PED usage. They talk. Some of these documentaries are very interesting and they're very in depth, and they talk about what particular teams were doing to get to the elitist of the elite. And for me, it's incredible that people are still in such denial, and it's still so taboo. Even in like bodybuilding communities where it's well known, now I see a big shift in mindset where people are being more open about it, because now it's almost trendy to admit to usage and things, and then you're seen as transparent, and that's good. It's a nice shift.
I can even say it from like peers that I've met in the gym, and they ask you what you take, and you're kind of honest about like, no, I'm trying to do this naturally, etc., or something like that. Cool, fantastic. And then they're like, you ask them, what do you take? And then they kind of play it down like, oh, I take this and this. And you get to talking a bit, and you mention that you've studied chemistry and you're quite interested in this stuff and you're quite knowledgeable. I've written a few articles. And then 10 minutes later, like, yeah, I'm actually taking like this. What do you think about this? And I'm like, really? Really? You lied to me and now you're asking for advice? Cheers.
No, I get you. So let's go on to the next topic that we mentioned, the enhanced games happening in 2025. To hear our opinion on the enhanced games and other exciting topics, you're going to have to tune in again next time on the Muscle Growth Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Muscle Growth Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating and a quick review. It helps us grow and reach more people just like you. Don't forget to follow us on all major social media platforms, including Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and X. Find us at the Muscle Growth Podcast and at Reps with Roscoe. For more insights, exclusive content, and full episodes, visit themusclegrowthpodcast.com. Your support truly makes a difference, so please like, share, comment, and follow. We're grateful for every bit of it. Until next time, keep pushing your limits and staying focused on getting bigger, stronger, and better.